Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here by myself for this episode, another breaking news edition as the Buckeyes have landed a commitment from 2027 linebacker Quinton Cypher out of Millbrook High School in Raleigh, North Carolina. Cypher, 6'2", 220 pounds, rated the number 11 linebacker in the 2027 class per the 24/7 composite, the number 194 player overall, and the number 8 player in the state of North Carolina. He is now the 8th member of Ohio State's 2027 recruiting class. And I'll go ahead and I'll throw some clips up of Cypher's sophomore season. I'll go ahead and throw some clips up of Cypher's most recent season, which concluded this year, and you will see, uh, boy, a smooth linebacker and a guy that can cover. You'll see that. You'll see a hard hitter, sideline to sideline kind of guy. And as I'm watching him, I always like to give you a comp that you will know at least the name of, and so I try to keep that Ohio State based. And when I watch Quinton Cypher in these clips, I see a little Pete Werner. And I think Pete Werner is one of the more underrated Ohio State linebackers of the last 15 or 20 years. A guy that could play all over the field, inside linebacker, outside linebacker, and then we also saw him drifting back as a safety at times in that 2019 defense. And not that you'll need to see Quinton Cypher doing that, but he has the kind of versatility that would allow whoever may be the defensive coordinator at Ohio State in 2027 and beyond to do some different things with, because he, to me, is a 3-down linebacker. He can play in pretty much any kind of defense, and an ideal inside will type of linebacker who can cover and run and recognize and seems to really, really enjoy the game. He commits to Ohio State over offers from all of the top schools around the nation, including Georgia, Alabama, Miami, the big names, including, as I said, even Miami and there as well. This past season in 2025, he put up 181 tackles, according to Maps Preps, 5.5 sacks, 48 tackles for loss, which that's a lot. Five PBUs, 4 interceptions, 3 fumble recoveries, 3 forced fumbles. And you also see him a little bit on offense, carrying the ball kind of as an H-back and catching it as well. As a sophomore in 2024, 175 tackles with 31.5 tackles for loss, 12.5 sacks, 8 PBUs, 3 interceptions, and a forced fumble. As a true freshman, starter as a true freshman, 155 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 3 PBUs, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, and a forced fumble. If I were to do some quick math, that's about 90 tackles for loss in 3 seasons. Would expect that he will be a 4-year starter in high school. If he is not, boy, go ahead and sign those linebackers that are starting in front of Quinton Cypher next year. But he will head to Ohio State eventually, and now kicks off or helps to kick off the defensive class for Ohio State. As I said, the 3rd defensive commit, joining safeties Eli Johnson out of Texas and Angelo Smith, who is the younger brother of Jeremiah Smith out of Chaminade, Madonna. There's still plenty of more work to do. The 2027 class is still very young, ranked the number 4 class right now. Still about, 12 months and change, or 11 months and change, or 14 months and change, depending on when you want to consider the 2027 class to be concluded. One note on the 2027 recruiting cycle: Ohio State wide receiver target Eric McFarland, who's one of the best players in the nation, a 2028 prospect, has reclassified to 2027. So that will be an interesting watch to see how Ohio State can maintain their relationship with him, even though Brian Hartline is off to the University of South Florida. And it's a pretty darn good group of receiver targets for Ohio State in that 2027 class. We know they already have a commitment from Wayne receiver Jameer Brown, who is one of the top one or two receivers in the nation. Still working on Indiana receiver Monshon Sales. That's going to be a fight with some of the major players in the Midwest and nationally. Of course, Eric McFarland, who we have seen now twice at Ohio State's June camps. And even though he's only 5'8" or 5'9", he always plays bigger than that. He's explosive, he's quick, he is compact, and he is confident. And the way we saw him in June interacting with the Ohio State receivers, it was like he was already a Buckeye. Now, still a long way to go, but that way to go has shortened by a year because of his move to 2027. So it will be interesting to see how well Ohio State can get into him. But again, this is a Quinton Cypher show, so you saw the clips there. What do you guys think? You know, you're watching it, and as I said, he's just really, really smooth and has good speed, and there's a good athlete. Very like there are no issues there. I don't know. You look at him and it's like, well, what can't he do? I don't know. And you know, what will Ohio State have him doing? Long way to go until we get to that point. But overall, a lot to work with for James Laurinaitis, who continues to recruit linebackers pretty darn well. And at this point, maybe, you know, I think you could consider him the best recruiter on staff. And he's continued to keep that going with Cypher in 2027. Will not be the last linebacker for the Buckeyes in that class. As we know, he will continue to add to it. And then when Cypher does get here, he's going to have plenty of you know, guys to compete against. This is not something that, you know, Laurinaitis doesn't take a year off in terms of, well, we'll load up in 2025 and then let it soften in 2026, because we know they loaded up in 2025, loaded up in 2026, loaded up in 2024. So this is a constant for the Buckeyes. And now Quinton Cypher, the latest to be added to that. So that will do it from here. If you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and give us a thumbs up. We would appreciate that. If you are listening, go ahead and 5-star rating and review, as we always appreciate that. And we are talking about this on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. So if you'd like to join our community, we'd love to have you there. You can sign up, say hello to us there on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. Always talking about recruiting, the team, a little bit about Michigan. There's always something to talk about there as well. And of course, the playoffs are here. And so we'll be covering all of that in depth. We'll be at every game, every Ohio State game at least, and you know, covering that from wherever we may be. And so you can find all of the coverage at buckeyehuddle.com and beyond. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all later.